King Vaughn.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Oh, Lord, we just ask you that you just be upon this man as he speaks his heart, your heart, for this people. Thank you so much for everything that you've given him, wisdom, knowledge, and I pray that everybody gets it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
King Vaughn.
Love you, bro.
Let's go.
Well, let's say we'll be in the dunk tank later.
Yes, I will be. It's 60 degrees outside.
Hey, make sure it doesn't overflow.
I try not to.
All right, cool. Well, hey, thank you all for coming out. For those on YouTube or who are watching this recorded, you might wonder why I'm dressed like this. We are having our children's fall festival. It's a Renaissance theme. So we're going to have a lot of fun today, rain or shine. We'll see what happens. But thank you guys for coming out. So I'm assuming almost everyone here has children. Yes? Like everybody here has children. Awesome. That's probably why you're at this class. So this class is Children's Immunity Through the Seasons. So I'll try to have a little time at the end for Q&A. If you have a burning question, you want to ask me a question, that's fine, but we usually try to keep the questions to the end. Yeah, my wife and I, Jen, we've always had a real heart for women, children, families. We have 3 children of our own that are 6, 4, and 2. So we feel like we have some experience, not near as much experience as probably some of you. We live in a community where people have 6, 7, 8 children, and we feel like, oh my gosh, we only have 3 children. Like, what are we doing? So a lot of people have a lot of experience, but in the nutrition field, we feel like we have some experience. We have 3 children who have all been born at home. By our personal choice, none of our children have been vaccinated. So far, none of our children have ever set foot in a hospital. We understand the purpose sometimes for hospitals and emergencies, but our goal is to go there as little as possible, and maybe ideally never at all, but we'll see how that goes. And I'm going to give you some personal examples and stories. Part of the reason I'm doing this class is because I want parents really to be empowered that if you can understand the body, if you can understand sickness and disease, if you can understand the process of what's happening, you can actually take care of the vast majority of any issues at home. And I feel like we've created a culture that if any little thing is wrong, we better run to the doctor and figure out what's going on. And now a lot of us have realized that A, they don't always have the answers, B, they give a lot of medications that cause a lot of problems. So I think it's kind of coming back full circle where a lot of parents are like, well, what can I do to take care of my kids at home? And that's our heart. That's what we do. So I'm going to start with talking about the importance of eating seasonally. And this isn't something I feel like we talk a lot about in Western culture. Part of that is because of the convenience age of grocery stores, and you can buy anything you want pretty much 24/7. So we don't eat seasonally a lot, but it is important. And I want to go through some of the reasons why it's important. I think it's dangerous to not eat properly and to eat out of season. If you think about it, you always hear, or we kind of know that it seems like we get more sick in the wintertime, right? Doesn't it seem like we get more sick in the winter than in the summer? So we can think of different reasons for that. I think some of that is just the logic that the sun and heat is really important. And so when it's hot outside and it's sunny outside, that's actually better for our immune system than when it gets cold and wet and damp as we move into the wintertime. So I see a lot of people who have a lot of, honestly, a lot of chronic illness. I don't know why. I don't get, for the most part, I don't get the people who are like wanting a weight loss program. I get the people who are like thin, freezing cold all the time, poor digestion, been struggling on and off with their health for years. For some reason, that seems to be the people that the Lord sends this way. And I think that's great. And so I've learned a lot because of that. I'm kind of more that type. Thin, don't gain weight, cold all the time. So it's part of my journey, and it seems to be a lot of people that come to me. So I have learned the importance of eating seasonally. I have met with people who are ill who learned through XYZ person or program that a raw food diet's the way to go. And they're eating raw, and they're juicing. I had a gal who was on an all-fruit diet for 2 years. She was miserable. She thought she was dying. She had 3 kids. She felt hopeless. And when I ran some lab tests on her, she had chronic mold toxicity, over 40 times the toxic level of mold. So I immediately switched her off of a raw food diet, off of a high fruit diet, onto what? Soups, stews, steamed vegetables, lots of sea salt, lots of herbs and spices. And in a month, she was a completely different person. Felt like she had hope again. Felt warm again. She was freezing cold all the time. Okay, so that's where I'm starting with this, is that in the fall and in the winter, it depends on where you live, but at least here and anywhere north of here, to me it makes sense to eat soups and steamed vegetables and to drink hot tea in the wintertime. Even if you've heard that the raw food is the best, and that's like, and you know, I don't want to make fun of it, but just people get really into it. Like, well, if you cook your food, you damage it and you lose all the enzymes, right? And that's not good for you. And it's like, there are cultures around the world that have mainly eat cooked food, like only. Like as in billions of people in the East, like in Asia, in China, in Japan. They're not raw foodists out there. I think it's more of a Western culture thing. And I have my opinion for that. I think it's because we've eaten a lot here excessively. People are overweight. There's situations where a raw food diet's great for people. So in the fall and winter, for your immune system, because one concept I really want you to understand in this class is that a cold body is a weak body. A cold body is a weak immune system. A cold body is a body that holds on to mucus that can't get rid of it. A cold body is a body that harbors infectious disease. Okay? We have seen that people who have candida, yeast, fungus, mold, they're full of infections, they're cold all the time, and they're mucousy. So what do? We warm up their bodies. We get them drinking hot tea, eating soups, getting in a far-infrared sauna that we have here. Buy one at home. Biomats. Anything you can do to raise your core body temperature. For women, especially men too, but for women especially, support your thyroid if you have a low body temperature. Get on iodine. Get on a good thyroid supplement. I have seen a ton of women who are in this situation and they start to do these things and all of a sudden they feel warm again. For the first time maybe in years, fingers, toes, they feel warm. That's a stronger, healthier body and a healthier immune system. So there's a reason in the winter that we're drawn to eating soups and stews and steamed vegetables and cooked foods. And so you are so cute. So I'm really going to encourage that for you guys going into the winter to really focus on that. This is a good time. Herbs are powerful. I have a formula out there called Digestive Heat. I have one called Medicinal Broth. These are things you can add to your soups and stews that strengthen your immune system. We have immune formulas out there. Put these things in your soups, your stews, your broth, sprinkle it on your steamed vegetables. The Digestive Heat formula is cumin, cardamom, coriander, ginger, fennel. These are warming herbs, warming spices. Not only is it going to warm your body, but it's going to boost your immune system. Hey, there's my little guy. What's up, Nathan Mann? I don't think they can see you on camera. You're a little short. So what I encourage, if you just read through this in the fall, winter, try to avoid cold raw foods. You know, unless you're just really hot all the time, really encourage you to stick to the stews, soups. Root vegetables are great for the fall and the winter. If you need some substance, this is your oatmeal. This is your rice, your whole grains. In general, I'm going to encourage you to eat quinoa, rice, oatmeal. I'm still going to maybe discourage eating lots of breads and pastas and baked goods and cookies and crackers, you know, staying away from maybe the processed grains, but eating whole grains, warm cooked whole grains. I've had people, just another example, I've had people who all they think about when fasting is like juice fasting. And I've seen people try to do it through the fall and the winter and they're miserable. And I had one particular guy come in and he was getting ready to start a fast and all he knew was juice fasting. And after talking to him, looking at his symptoms, I really encouraged him to do bone broth soups, stews, steamed vegetables, just kind of like what we're talking about. He mainly stick to liquids, but he was still fasting. Because when you're fasting, it's just restricting, you're focusing on the Lord, more so than even the food you're eating. But he said, and actually it was his wife that was like, he has fasted many times over the years. I've never seen him feel so good on a fast, so healthy. He was warm. He had so much energy. He was cleaning out the garage. Like, I've never seen him function this well during a fast. So you can do a fast well and actually have more energy and have life force. Part of it is the type of fast that you choose to do. So you might eat a few more fats and proteins in the winter. Squirrels do. Right? They store up their nuts for the fall and the winter. So I still get to encourage you not to go crazy on fats and protein. In general, I'm a 20% or less guy. That's a rough estimate. But by the time you put a little olive oil in some food that you're cooking and you have a piece of fish or chicken once a day, that's really all you need for fats and proteins. We overdo it. We really need to eat lots of vegetables, soups, stews, those kind of things in the winter. I love looking at the Asian culture because I feel like they've done it right like all of history, right? I feel like in America we're just really confused all the time. But in Asian cultures it's 80-90% veggies. There might be a little fat in there and there might be a little chicken in there. And that's how they've eaten for millennia, right? Maybe rice for some substance. So again, that's a great way to do it in the winter. You can get your crock pot out, do beans. We do lots of beans and rice. It's simple, it's cheap, it's easy, it's a complete food, complete protein. It's easier on the body than animal proteins. So we're not vegetarian, but we do notice we feel better without meat, so we kind of eat less and less all the time. So just, again, whatever works for you, but we just recommend, again, 20% or less fats or proteins in the winter. Just mainly lots of veggies and lots of those whole grains. Rice with meals, oatmeal in the morning, that kind of stuff. Okay, spring and summer. This is where you might transition to, the greens are coming out in the spring, right? So you might transition to more salads. A lot of you aren't big raw food eaters per se. So at the end I put, maybe your goal is to have more raw than cooked. Because if you're eating seasonally, by the time July, August comes around, there's an abundance of cucumbers, and when peaches are in season and you go to the farmer's market, like that's a good weekend. Like a fresh peach off the tree is like amazing, right? So this is a good time to eat raw fruits and vegetables. The sun counterbalances, and that's warming and that's heating, so you're going to eat more raw foods. So I'm not saying this is universal, but I have found it ironic that I've been doing this for 10 years, and the people out there actively, and I mean actively promoting raw food diets, do you know where they're from? Almost always like tropical climates. They're in Florida, they're in California, they're in Hawaii, and they're telling the whole world that everybody should eat raw foods. I haven't seen a lot of people like in northern Michigan like really just going gung-ho after being a raw foodist. I just think it's interesting. So I do think the climate matters. When I go to Hawaii, my wife's born and raised in Hawaii, so I have to go back sometimes. That was a joke. We are going to go back in January. We haven't been back in 3 years. We're really excited. But it's easy in Hawaii to be in the sun, to be in the ocean, and just eat fruit all day. It's easy. Because you know what? That's normal in that tropical type of a climate. So again, look, and I'm saying this because I feel like in the health world, a lot of people they feel like they got to eat one way or the other. Like you have to eat raw or whatever. So I just really want you to think about eating seasonally. You know who does this really good is Ayurvedic medicine in India. They're real big on seasonal eating. And they give you lists of different foods you should eat in the different seasons based on what's in season. Let me tell you something fascinating about eating seasonally. And this is like I try to bring everything back to God and God's creation. The microbes in your body and in your gut change with the seasons. And they match the microbes in the soil in the food you eat during those seasons. So when you try to eat raw foods in the wintertime, they actually don't digest just well because you don't have the right microbes in your gut because they're changing for the colder weather. Does that make sense? This is kind of more recent information, more recent whatever you want to call it, research or studies that have come out. And again, I love science because I think everything in science is proving the existence of God. And that's what I love about science. It's continuing more and more just to prove that God's design is what makes the most sense. So again, if you eat in the fall squash and apples and those kind of foods going into the fall, again, your gut microbes match those foods in nature. So I think that was really fascinating. The thing I love about using herbs, like if you use raw herbs, which we have like 60 some of our own herbal formulas, those raw herbs all can still contain the microbes in them. So people are big on probiotics, right? You want to take a probiotic, that's fine and dandy. Every time you take herbs, raw herbs, you're getting all those microbes that are on those plants because they're raw foods. They haven't been cooked. So just something to think about. So general principles. Be in the sun for vitamin D. That's obviously the best, but I don't think it's a bad idea to take vitamin D in the winter, especially in colder climates. We've all known about the importance of vitamin D, and it's great for the immune system. And it's cheap. It's really cheap to take vitamin D. They have little chewable gummies. We use the one by Nordic Naturals, but we have one that's 10,000 IUs in one little tiny capsule, and I think 60 tablets is like $10. So nothing wrong with taking vitamin D. Another general principle is 3 meals a day. I know that might seem odd to a lot of people in Western culture, but and again, a lot of this is just what I've found over the years, but I believe that eating frequently, eating every 2-3 hours, eating 7 meals a day is a result of unhealthy, balanced people. It's a result of blood sugar and blood pressure issues and people actually relying on food to function. Does that make sense? You should be able to eat 3 or even 2 meals a day. I often fast during the day and just eat 1 meal at night with my family. I meet a lot of people that do that. It works really well for people. There's an Ayurvedic saying, I don't know the exact words, but it's something like this. It says 1 meal a day for a yogi, which would be like a spiritual person. And if you study the ancient desert fathers, like the Christian desert fathers, they ate once a day. They ate bread once a day, just like the Lord's Prayer, right? So 1 meal a day for a yogi, 2 meals a day for a hard working class person. So this would be a farmer out in the field 8 hours a day is 2 meals a day. 3 meals a day for a sick person. I know that, again, that sounds surprising to us, but what I have definitely found, if anything else, is we overeat in America. Overeat in America. So I just encourage people to start with this. Just start with three square meals a day and try to cut out the snacks. Maybe it's an apple or something for a snack, but I mean, we're kind of snack crazy. Every time our kids are crazy, kids are hungry, like burp, 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 every time. And I think that's very unhealthy. That's very unbalanced. Over time, that causes a lot of problems. It teaches them that every time they're hungry, they're going to get satisfied with food. So we're not perfect at it either. You know, we have 3 little kids, but we really try to do 3 meals a day. And the kind of joke with my family and my wife is, there's notes up here if somebody's come in more new. Here, we can hand those back for anybody who wants notes. Thanks. The kind of joke is when Daddy has the kids is that the kids kind of fast when they're with Daddy. We just play and hang out, and like, I kind of skip meals sometimes. You know, I think, and I say this stuff because it's kind of funny and, you know, it might be kind of controversial, whatever. I'm just sharing personal experience. I think our kids do great. I absolutely cannot beat my 4-year-old at a matching game. I'm not even joking. Like, I'm trying so hard. I tied her once. I thought like my IQ went up because I tied my daughter in a matching game. I'm just saying, our kids are really smart and they're really healthy and their skin looks really good. And I seriously feel like they eat a half or less of most kids. They poop every day, sometimes twice a day. I don't know how kids can possibly be constipated as much as we eat today. So it just shocks me that our kids don't seem to eat that much. They're pooping every day, but they do great. And sometimes when they're with Dad, I'm like, honey, what'd you have for lunch? Oh, we had kind of a later lunch, like 1, 2 o'clock. And if she had some decent substance to it, I'm like, okay, well, maybe we'll just keep it light for dinner. And sometimes we'll just have fruit or an apple or just a quick smoothie or sometimes nothing at all. Right or wrong, I'm just sharing personal experience. I've done this before, so you can all laugh. But kids like dessert. We're a culture that likes dessert, right? It's pretty rare. It's probably once every 2 to 3 months that we have like some coconut ice cream or something. But one time I was home with the kids. The kids knew there was some coconut ice cream in the freezer. So I said, "You guys want the rest of that ice cream?" Yeah. I said, "Okay, that's dinner. That's going to be all you get." And that's what we did. Now, is that bad? You can be honest. So what I'm seeing is that I'm actually giving them a treat. I'm giving them sugar. I'm actually kind of in a way keeping it light because that's all they're getting. We want to feed our kids this huge nutritious meal and then give them dessert on top of it, right? So I feel like in our culture, for some reason, we've developed this mindset that every single meal, you have to feed your kid this super nutritious meal. Am I right? Like every meal, 3 meals a day, it has to be filling and nutritious, and it's got to have protein, and they got to eat their veggies every meal. And I'm just being honest, we don't do that. We don't do that. And again, that's just our personal experience. But you know what? It's easier. It takes less time. You know how exhausting it is to plan and prepare 3 meals a day? Can any mom say amen to that? Amen. Okay? So if you just have fruit for a meal and it's not a big deal, it ain't a big deal. If you make a huge pot of soup, you just heat up soup, no big deal. In the summer, all the time. I mean, we're busy. Boom, 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 in a blender, smoothie, less than 5 minutes, that's dinner. They're okay. They're actually doing great. So I'm just like, maybe encouraging you a little bit that you don't have to have like this perfect 3 meal a day, perfect meal for every meal, like kind of philosophy. Because again, I feel like that's kind of what we've created in our culture. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. And if you're big on dinner and that's your family get together and you pray and that's important, then make dinner that main, very valuable meal. You know, a lot of times for a breakfast, it's a bowl of oatmeal, they're on their way. I mean, that's like 80% of the time. In the summer, it's a little bowl of fruit. Boom, they go play. Like, we don't eat huge breakfasts. So again, that's just us. We keep it light. We keep it simple. I feel like our kids do great. Trust me, they get plenty of nutrition. They're not going to not grow because they didn't get like one nutritious meal, right? So, all right, I think I've hammered that enough. So I just think getting back to 3 meals a day can be very beneficial in many ways. And it might even be 2 meals a day, and the other meal is just fruit or a snack or something light. Don't feel bad about making a snack a meal. I feel like our kids are going to be better off, healthier, smarter on less than more. I feel like less is more. I really feel like that's true, okay? I said your gut microbes change with the season. Spring is the best time to cleanse your liver. I'm just sharing this for like the future. Summer's the best time. You're active, you're in the sun. It's the best time to work on your fluid systems, which is your kidney and lymphatic system. And the fall and the winter, keep that colon healthy, especially around the holidays, right? How many people do a colon cleanse after Christmas? That should be your New Year's resolution, January 1st, do a colon cleanse. Instead, we're just going to go to Hawaii on January 2nd. We're going to cleanse in Hawaii after the holidays. So, but no, really, fall and winter is really important time to take care of your colon. We're more sedentary. We're inside more. We're eating bigger, heavier meals sometimes. We got the holidays. So again, really important time to take care of your colon in the winter. There's easy colon cleanses you can do. Some of you probably have done our colon cleanses. Intermittent fasting, how can you do this as a family? I feel like I already touched on that. Again, just there's no perfect plan. Do what works for your family. We try to do what works for our family, and it's far from perfect. But we don't feel I don't make my wife feel guilty if she doesn't have this huge, perfect meal for us every dinner. She's like, "Sorry, honey, I was swamped today." "Okay, I'll make a smoothie, honey. 5 minutes. Choop, choop, you're good." We go play. You know, it's no big deal. Okay. So how much should you eat? What are the key factors? The season you're in. We talked about seasonal eating. Activity level. This is another really key thing. I always talk about eating less, kind of calorie restriction. I believe it's a key to longevity, is kind of restricting calories. But some people are like, well, I work out all the time. I do CrossFit. I'm a dancer. You need more. I mean, that's just common sense. But the reality is, I would say, unfortunately, a good portion of us aren't super active. So you can actually you'll do better with less. You'll do better with less. So your activity level matters. The environment in which you live matters. Again, if you live in Hawaii and you live in northern Michigan, your diets probably will look a little bit different. They should anyway, okay? Especially if you're eating seasonally. It's easy to eat seasonally in Hawaii, right? Because the same stuff grows all year long. Kinda. I mean, they have seasons for things, but in general, fruit and different things, they grow all year long. So how balanced is your body? So there's nothing wrong with, like, my wife made this point. There's nothing wrong with, like, craving, like, comfort foods, like in the winter. Like, I've seriously had a lot of people who are big into, like, raw and stuff, and they're like, I don't feel great when I do it, but I just feel like that's what I'm supposed to do, and that's what everybody says. And I'm like, just go home and make some chicken soup. I'm like, oh my gosh, that felt so amazing. Like, I felt it in my whole body. Like, I hear that. Like, my whole body felt good, like I needed that. So if you're craving certain things, it's probably because your body's out of balance. You know, if you're craving sugar all the time, your body's out of balance. If you're craving salt all the time, your body's out of balance. And you probably need salt. I'm a weird healthcare practitioner because I put lots of people on salt. And most everybody tells, like, salt's bad, stay away from salt. My doctor said salt's bad. I put people on salt all the time. All the time. Because it's crucial for the immune system, for the adrenal glands, for warming the body temperature. You got low blood pressure, you're low in salt. I can just tell you that. If anybody has chronically low blood pressure, it's a sodium issue. It's a fluid imbalance. Okay? So salt's really important. So balance is important. The only cleanse that I've done where I felt super balanced, my cravings went away, I felt like I really didn't have an appetite, I felt very nourished, was when I do the Indian stuff, the Ayurvedic cleanses. Khichdi, if you guys have heard of that. But for me and my body type, I feel balanced and my cravings go away when I eat warm cooked food, steamed vegetables, rice, and things like that. If I eat a snack bar or some fruit, I want more. I feel like it's a craving that won't stop. I don't feel balanced. So I think if we stop and, like, pay attention to our bodies a little bit, we can learn what can balance our bodies a little bit. We kind of just dive into those cravings, and then we're just more out of balance, and we're just confused all the time. I think we just really need to pay attention, slow down. Why am I craving this? If you're craving sugars, you know, maybe you will do better with oatmeal or rice or a little substance or a little starch or something like that, okay? All right. What does this have to do with immunity? So I put the less you eat, the cleaner your body, which means the stronger your immune system. I've used this example in classes before. I felt like my wife said it really well. If you have if your body gets an infection, okay, a flu virus, a bacteria, something like that, your immune system is in your blood, it's in your lymphatic system, it's in your gut, right? So if there's an emergency and those ambulances and fire trucks and police trucks are trying to get to the site of the emergency and stop it, it can't do it if you're too full of food. If you're eating all the time, if you're eating every 2-3 hours, if you're overeating, when there's an immune crisis, your body can't respond. It's like the emergency responders can't get to the place where they need to get to. That's why all these quotes I have coming up are all about the power of fasting. And one of the famous ones is Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, said that a little starvation will do more for the average sick man than the best medicines and the best doctors. I mean, he's famous for if he ever felt bad or felt a sick, cold, flu, anything going on, he just would stop eating. He wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't go to the doctor. He wouldn't take medicine. He just stopped eating, and he'd get over it faster. And so he had learned that. So fasting is very powerful because, again, without the burden of food in the body, you activate the immune system. So what happens when you're really sick?
You stop eating.
You stop eating. Who's lost their appetite because they were sick? There's a reason for that. If your kids lose your appetite when they're sick, the worst thing you can do is force feed them. I mean, that's contrary to what God's design of the body is, of what's supposed to be happening in their body. So you don't need to force food upon a sick person, okay? So what is immunity? What is sickness? It's the ability to fight. I mean, that's really what our immune system is. It's the ability to fight incoming invaders, okay? I mean, that's why I'm dressed like this. I'm your immune system, okay? I want to fight, but I have to have a clear path. I just totally made that up. All right, so if there's anything that I really want to drive home, I think in this class, I highlighted it and I bolded it to embrace the symptoms of sickness, understand the symptoms, understand the human body, understand the process, but probably most importantly, learn to work with the symptoms, not against the symptoms. Have we not been trained to run to the doctor? Have we not been trained that every symptom is bad and you need to stop it, right? I mean, just look at Mucinex and Singular and, I mean, on down the list, the allergy meds, the cough syrups, all this stuff is to stop God's natural processes of removing toxins from the human body. And we're doing it to our children. We're stopping fevers when that's God's natural process to kill infection in the human body. Remember, I talked about the importance of heat in the wintertime. A warm body is a strong body. A body with a fever is what you want. I have parents all the time put their kids on some kind of a detox immune protocol, and their kid gets a fever. And I try to tell the parents in the consultation before that if your child gets a rash, if your child gets cold flu symptoms, if your child gets a fever, good. That is what we're going for. That is how God removes toxins from this holy temple that's made in his image. God's temple is designed to keep poisons out. Doesn't that just make sense in how God designed us as a holy temple, right? We should be strong enough to kick poisons and toxins out of the body. The real danger is the sick person who never gets sick. When a person's not healthy and they never get sick, they're in trouble, okay? Because of the lack of understanding, I'll use my children as an example. They get sick a lot. They really do. And people are like, oh my gosh, like, you guys eat so healthy, and how do your kids get sick? I'm like, because they got a strong immune system. They're supposed to get sick. They're supposed to get a fever. They're supposed to get mucus coming out of their body. When you do things like medicate your children or do drugs or certain things that the medical system does, it drops the vitality of the person. It drops the vitality of your child. It actually makes them sicker and more susceptible to sickness and disease. The body should be able to fight, and you should be able to see that. So I give those personal examples because we haven't been to a hospital yet. We thought Nathan broke his arm one time. Naomi landed on his arm. He was like this. If you even touched it, he screamed in agony. And we're like, is it broken? My wife's a physical therapist. She's like, it could be broken. So we were prepared to go to the hospital and get it x-rayed. And if it was broken, we would have got it set. And we understand that emergency places are good for that. We get that. We put essential oils on it. In 1 hour, he stopped screaming and started moving his arm around. It was crazy. So if it was broken, we would have had to go to the hospital. But it was a deep, deep bruise, and the essential oils were like a miracle. Overnight, it was healed. I've had Noelle with a fever for 3 days. Didn't move off the couch for 3 days, burning hot. Now, most parents are like, they ask me all the time, like, what's a dangerous level for a fever? That's a common question I get. So people think like 102, 103 is a dangerous level for a fever. It's not. If it was 105, I might start to try to do something about it. But 103, 104, to me, it's normal, it's natural. Okay? And again, these issues of a child getting a fever up to 107 and getting brain damage, They're 1 in 20 million, but it's all you hear about. Why? Because we have a culture of fear. We have created a culture of fear. And that's what I put in here is, what are we scared of? Are we scared of sickness? Are we scared of disease? Are we scared of fevers? Are we scared of vaccines? Are we scared of drugs? We're kind of scared of everything, a little bit. I'm trying in my house to not live fear-based, okay? We don't have medical insurance, but I don't live fear-based. Now, I trust the Lord primarily, but I also trust a good doctor who can fix my son's broken leg. I do have trust in the system as far as some of the emergency care. It's the rest of the system I have no trust in, and I want to avoid. So I want to empower parents that you can take care of your children's cold or flu. You can take care of their fever, even if it goes on for 2, 3, 4 days, because we've seen it. I'll give you another example in case this is probably, someone's going to hear this and it's going to be important. Our daughter was screaming in pain because her stomach hurt. Screaming in pain, like through the night screaming. And we didn't know what it was. We were trying to look up the symptoms. She had the symptoms of possibly like appendicitis. And again, if it was an emergency of an emergency, we're going to take our child to the emergency room and make sure her life is saved. Okay? We're not against saving our children's lives, right? So, but I really felt strongly that it was something going on in her gut, and I didn't know if it was microbial. I didn't know what it was. So we gave her, at 4 years old, her first enema. It wasn't her favorite experience, but we talked her through it, and we loved her through it, and she's like, it's going to help you. Okay, Dad. Like, there's a trust factor there, right? And it was almost kind of funny because when she got up on the toilet and released, gas just started coming out. And we were just cracking up. Just all this gas started coming out of her. So this screaming pain she had for 2, 3 nights in a row was gas pains. Do you know how many people go to the emergency room for gas pains? How many people think they're having a heart attack because of gas pains? I hear it over and over and over again. So again, if it would have been in her appendix and it would have been an emergency, we would have had to make a decision there. Now, I have read books on, and I have personally known people who have beaten appendicitis. The only way you do it is through fasting. You have to stop eating food. You have to let your body heal. You have to take things that kill the infection, because there's always an infection with appendicitis. Okay? Anything itis is usually involving an infection. There's a reason for inflammation. So I'm just giving you those personal examples that if your child's stomach hurts, there could be a microbial issue, there could be parasites. I gave you the cleanse at the end of this document of what we did for our daughter. The exact cleanse we did for our daughter that completely took that pain away. And now it's, a month later, and just no issues at all. And how many kids go to the emergency room and get a bunch of tests run and maybe get on a medication and all this kind of stuff? So a lot of times that can cause a downward spiral because medications can cause other problems, and you guys all know that. So again, we're always trying to do things to bring correction and balance and harmonious balance back to God's design. Not the medical system does a lot of things to the body that throws it out of balance. Now, they might be able to save a life, and there's a time for that, but a lot of the medications and things really throw the body out of balance. So again, we want to avoid those if possible. So medical care or empowered parents. So it should be both. But instead of 10% empowerment of parents and 90% reliant on the medical system, let's flip that. Okay? Let's 90% take care of our earaches and our throat problems and our colds and flus and even our screaming stomach issues, if it's something we can handle. Let's 90% take care of that at home and 10% the doctor when it's an absolute emergency. We just don't know what emergency is anymore. Again, we've been trained that everything's bad, everything's wrong, let's go to the doctor, he'll have our solution. And I think people know now that that's not always the case. But again, there's a time and a place. That's what makes it hard. But back in the day, when people lived on farms and in small communities, they had to know how to take care of themselves and their families. We've lost that. Let's get it back. All right. So you can look at the fasting quotes. Instead of using medicine, better to fast today. Ancient Greeks, if you guys heard of the Pythagorean theorem, I didn't put this on, but Pythagoras would not take on a student if he did not first do a 40-day fast and if he didn't regularly do 40-day fasts throughout the year, because he knew that person would not have the mental capability to understand the concepts he was teaching them. In other words, food dulls your mind when you overeat and you eat the wrong things, okay? And again, I've seen so many people change their diet and cleanse, and they're like, I can think better, my memory's better, the brain fog's gone. I mean, all that stuff goes away. Why? Because you're more cleaned out. We should be more efficient machines, and we should be able to operate more on less. That's what I always tell people. Like, one of the ways you know you're getting better is if, like, you just start to skip meals because you're not hungry. You go down to 2 meals a day, or even 3 square meals a day if you're eating a lot of snacks and stuff. If you can do better and go longer on less food, your factory is working more efficiently. So it's a good way to think about it. Benjamin Franklin, the best of all medicines is resting and fasting. You know my favorite Ben Franklin quote? God heals all diseases, and the doctor takes the fee. It's my favorite quote. Because really, I mean, who can heal the body? Nobody can heal the body outside of God, okay? Doctors can set a bone so that it heals properly, but a doctor does not heal that person. No human being can heal another person outside of the power of God, period. And I think this audience understands that, okay? Again, we can help things. We can help the process. That's all I do with what I do when I do consulting. Change the diet, find out what the sickness is in the body, try to get it out. If it's an infection, get it out. If it's mercury, get it out. Whatever the poison is, get it out. The Holy Temple is not designed to have poisons in it. You get the poisons out, the body starts working right. It's not a crazy concept. It's just that you're not taught this in the standard medical field. You're taught that every symptom is bad and come to me for your magic potion, right? All right, who are the key players in the immune system? Oh my gosh. Gut digestion. So again, it all starts with digestion. Starts with how well you're processing and digesting and handling foods. Less is more. Less is more. In the winter, you might be shocked that you just do soups for meals, steamed veggies for meals. Last night, I made dinner. You know what I did? I cut up some potatoes, carrots, and onions, and I put a little bit of, maybe a tablespoon of ghee in the whole thing, some herbs and spices. I roasted it in the oven for an hour, and that was dinner. Easy peasy. We do meals of just vegetables all the time. Our kids love roasted beets. Some like some things, some don't like other things. Nathan will eat anything. He'll pound Brussels sprouts all day long. The girls think they're gross. You'll have to figure that stuff out. But I'm just saying, it's easy to make meals of like just vegetables or soups or whatever, and they're fine. Potatoes have good substance to it. We make rice and vegetables all the time. Again, beans, things that have substance in it. Has anybody afraid of grains or heard that like grains are bad and don't eat grains? Because I was in that camp a long time, okay? So I don't want to get too deep into that, but we have switched that. We have learned that the real problem are the high fats. If you eat a lot of fats, your body can't process grains and sugars and starches. We learned it firsthand. My wife couldn't understand why she didn't feel good when she ate rice and she ate quinoa. Those are normal things we should be able to eat. She didn't feel good. We stopped eating grains, and we'd heard that grains were bad. Well, guess what? She was eating tons of fat. Tons of fat. Loved avocados, nuts, oil on everything. What did we do? We cut out the fats. We have zero problem whatsoever with starches now. So when you have fats and starches and you're not extremely active, those competing fuel sources can't metabolize. Does that make sense? The real cause of diabetes is a high-fat diet. It's not the sugar. It's high-fat, high-sugar diet. Okay, and there's a lot of research out there showing the high-fat diet is the problem these days. And I don't think anybody can get away with a high-fat diet, but the only way you can kind of get away with a high-fat diet is where you go keto and you only eat fats. But who's going to live their whole life like that? I think keto is extremely unrealistic for most human beings. So if you understand that, you can do some fats, but make it 10% or less, very small amount. You'll actually be able to handle rice and quinoa and some of those other foods, okay? So the gut digestion is key. The lymphatic system is key. The liver is key. Ultimately, the blood is key. I've talked about this a lot in past, but understand that the life of all flesh is in the blood. When you have skin issues, you have blood issues. You have blood pressure issues, you have blood issues. Everything kind of comes back to how the blood's working. The only way the blood's working is if the liver's filtering the blood properly and the lymphatic system is dumping the waste properly. If you got the lymph dumping waste and you got the liver working efficiently, you have clean blood, you have no sickness or disease. Okay? Virtually. I was just reading some stuff on Chinese medicine the other day, and there's a quote from the 1800s from a physician in China who said, "He who learns to balance the liver cures hundreds of diseases." The liver is key. And these high-fat diets are destroying the liver and the gallbladder. Just look at the gallbladder surgeries in America. I guarantee you, everybody here, raise your hand if you know somebody who's had their gallbladder removed. Okay, almost everybody, 90% of you. So high-fat, high-sugar diet, very dangerous. So we believe it's okay to eat whole grains, but to make it successfully work, I think you got to decrease your fat intake. It doesn't mean fats are bad. It means just minimize it. How to build an immune system year-round. Herbs. I'm just naming some of our stuff just because that's what I know, but we have an Immune Boost tea. Have that on hand all the time. Give that to the kids instead of other beverages. Have them drink an immune tea with a little honey in it. Superfood powder or greens powder. This is a great thing to throw in a juice or a smoothie or something like that. BioRay, all their products are kid-focused. They focus on kids' detoxification. They've worked with a lot of kids with autism and special needs and seen those symptoms reversed. Dozens, hundreds probably of stories. We have a ton of free BioRay samples outside. Tons of free samples. I highlight Belly Balance and Happy just because of what I was talking about. The main parts of your immune system are your gut and your digestion and getting rid of infections and microbes in that area and the lymphatic system. So the Belly Balance is kind of their gut restoration product. They've seen nonverbal children start to speak because of the issues in their gut. I have personally seen a 4-year-old child who was nonverbal start talking after they took, it was Cytoflora, which is their stronger version of the Belly Balance. It's the professional version, but it's called Cytoflora. Tons of testimonials on their websites of children speaking who couldn't speak before. And it's because of what's going on in their guts. Happy, it's called Happy. It's their antimicrobial product. A lot of the mood issues, the rage, the crazy emotions are because the kids have microbial infections in their guts. It affects, the seat of the emotions is in the belly. Okay? That's why we're addicted to food. So when you have microbial issues in your gut, emotions can be all over the place. So when you candida cleanse, yeast cleanse, parasite cleanse, you do these cleanse on your kids, you notice the shift and the change in how they're doing and how they're feeling. We've seen it in our children. Wish Garden, I love Wish Garden's products. They have a whole children's line. Probiotics, I give a couple examples. We have like 300 samples of the Synthol Kids, so please take like 7. I'm being serious. It's a great product though. Take vitamin D, I mentioned that. Fire cider, especially in the winter. This is a recipe, we have it here, but this is a recipe you can look up online and you can make it at home. It's got all of those strong heating herbs. The story of the gal who makes this is amazing. She was typical like antibiotics for a kid. She was taking antibiotics when she was sick, but she kept getting sick. And she actually became resistant to the antibiotics she was taking. They weren't working anymore. Somebody told her about fire cider. When she started taking fire cider, she didn't get sick anymore. She started giving it to her kids. She got so passionate about it, she started making it and selling it. She sells it here locally. So fire cider brings the garlic, the onion, the turmeric, the ginger, the apple cider vinegar. It's basically like a hot tonic. That's why it's called fire cider. This is stuff people would make back in the good old days, man. They lived on a farm and they'd give it to their kids. Twice a year, if you lived on a farm, you got a parasite cleanse. Trust me, you had parasites. Okay? Silver Biotics, a blend of silver and aloe is very good for any microbial issue. Silver is good against candida, yeast, fungus, clostridia, viruses. Silver will kill any microbial, except I don't think it probably kills large parasites. That's what parasite cleanses are for, but it's very antimicrobial. And don't buy, I'm just saying this on the record because I haven't said this much before, don't buy colloidal silver. Okay? Colloidal silver is a large particle size that it does show it can kill your good bacteria and it can accumulate in the system. Okay? The silver we use is called a silver hydrosol. It's a nanoparticle. It actually gets into the cell. It actually is water soluble. It flushes out the system through water. It doesn't accumulate in the system. They've done hundreds of studies proving it does not kill beneficial microbes. And it boosts the immune system and it does not accumulate in the system. So that's why I recommend a specific type of silver called Silver Biotics. It's a smaller particle size. I think that's really important for people to hear. This is the cleanse I gave my daughter, who is having this screaming at night stomach pain and during the day. I'm not saying there wasn't a microbial component to this. I think gas was the main pain component. But I'll never forget when our very first child, Naomi, we gave her a parasite cleanse when she was 2 years old. And my wife called me one day and she said, yeah, I just saw worms. Okay? It's weird. Okay? I'm sorry. It freaks people out. I have to say it. I have to say it because the real reason people are sick is infectious disease, mucus and congestion in the human body. We've known this for 7,000 years. Our medical system ignores it because they want you sick. There's only money in sick people. There's no money in people who are well. Do we understand that? So I'm not saying there aren't good doctors and nurses out there. There are, but it's a system designed to make people sick and keep people sick. Yes, we live in the matrix. Okay? I'm not going to get too far off into the spirit here, but this is real. We have to learn how to take care of our own families and our own children because there's a system out there not looking out for us. We have to start looking out for ourselves. Is it raining? Is the party moving in here? So we gave all 3 of our kids this cleanse. The Aerobic Life Cleanse is super easy. It's 3 products. You can mix 2 of them in a little water or juice and drink it. One's at night before bed. It's called the Aerobic Life Cleanse. It's a 10-day cleanse I give to adults. You can do it for kids. It's called Aerobic Life Cleanse. And then we added antimicrobials. So we added the silver, the VF syrup. So I got to say this because this is important. This is how much the medical industry knows the truth, but they don't want you to know the truth. Okay? In natural health, we're not supposed to say the word parasite. They're making companies take the word parasite off of their labels. Why? It's an admission that they know parasites is what's causing people to be sick. And they don't want people to know about it. So this particular company is now called VF Syrup. What's VF? Vermifuge. Vermin, think vermin. Vermifuge. It's the old school word of something that kills microbial organisms. So now it's vermifuge syrup, because we can't let you know what you're really killing and why you're really sick, because it's parasites. Like, that's just one reason, okay? So Silver Biotics, the VF syrup, the Biocidin, I won't get into it too much, but it's a biofilm buster, so it's actually going to kill mold, Lyme, really chronic deep infections. People that have mouth problems have biofilms in their mouth that are destroying their teeth. Root canals can destroy a person, okay? So this actually breaks down the biofilms in the mouth. Dentists are using Biocidin and ozone with unbelievable success now. We have an ozone olive gold O3, which is an ozone olive oil you can spray in your mouth. It'll kill the infections in your mouth, okay? So we did the colon cleanse with these 3 products, and our children, all 3 of them, I put in your start on here, watch the stools, you might see weird things, good. You want it out. And our 3 kids, we don't have any dogs in the house, okay? Our kids aren't running around picking up weird germs in places outside of where everybody normally goes. all 3 of our kids had weird stools. I mean weird stuff. Just, I won't describe it to you. It wasn't just poo-poo. I'm just letting you know, okay? And I'm the guy that like fights for this with my family. I'm letting you know how real the battle is that we are in for our health and for our children, okay? When you do your children a cleanse and you add parasite and antimicrobial stuff, you probably will see weird things. That's good. You want it out. Those things inside the body are causing sickness, disease, emotional instability, cravings for the wrong foods, behavioral issues, all the symptoms of autism. Okay, these things are from toxins and poisons being inside of the human body. And one of the most poisonous things to be inside the body is a microbial organism that's living in there. I'm sorry to just be blunt and be gross, but you have kids, and I want them to be well. And I don't want your sick kid to go to the doctor and he just gives you a steroid or an anti-inflammatory and tells you he'll grow out of it and everything's okay. It is a lie, okay? We have to fight for our children's health. So we have to cleanse them. We have to get the poisons out. So do a cleanse this winter. Eat warm cooked foods this winter. Maybe take some supplements if they'll help. But if your kids get sick, it's okay. Have peace. It's normal. It's supposed to happen. I'm more worried about the kids who don't get sick than the kids who do get sick. In today's culture, our kids, I mean, last year I was like, Lord, what is up? Like, this is the 4th round. Like, our kids got sick like 4 or 5 times last year. It's inconvenient, but I know that their immune system's stronger because we work with the symptoms. We embrace the cleansing of the body. We interfere as little as possible, okay? Let God do what he designed the human body to do, and your children will be healthier and stronger. The more you interfere with the natural process through medications, vaccines, different things, contrary to what you hear, the weaker your children will become. And unfortunately, our children, because of where we're at culturally, our children are being born weak. So they need all the help they can get. Okay? So I will end there. Thank you. That was fun to do. I haven't done it in a class in a while. Does anybody have a question? Yes?
Okay, so you mentioned singular, and that's something that my son's on, and his doctor was like, he needs to be on it all year, prescription all year. Is
Right.
For 2 weeks in the year, you know, he has seasonal allergies. He
Right.
needs to be, he just flares up in the spring. So I'm like,
Right.
well, I'm not going to do that. But he's got this problem area. So this last year I've been thinking about what can I do? Like, should I get acupuncture? Should I,
Sure.
you know, is there a suggestion there?
So her question was, I always forget to repeat the question. Her son's on Singular. The doctor told her to take it year-round. And what else can she do? Okay?
Yeah.
So first of all, diet. Just make sure he's not doing any clogging, mucus-forming foods. Dairy is the worst. So if you're on dairy, get off the dairy. Dairy and sugar would be the main ones. Singular dries out the mucous membranes. Okay? It prevents the natural creation and elimination of mucus. Therefore, you're not binding, trapping, and moving the allergens out through mucus. You're trapping them in the body. So long term, this is asthma and chronic lung issues and all these problems because you're just keeping the poisons in the body. Does that make sense? So yeah, acupuncture is great. Anything that can open up the flow of things. But the biggest thing is getting off of dairy and sugar, the warm cooked foods. We have sinus sprays. We have a silver sinus spray because you have to kill the fungus, mold, whatever's in the sinus cavity, okay? Because you don't have allergies up here if you don't have infection and mucus up here. So a sinus spray in the nose, ear candles, hot baths with essential oils, right? Soups, steamed vegetables, sea salt. If you go to the ocean and you swallow salt water, what happens? Blah, mucus dump, right? Hallelujah. So salt in water is amazing for breaking that stuff up. We have I don't know if he'd do it, but we have a sinus and brain steam detox where you boil water and you put the herbs in it and you breathe in this steam and it kills the infections, open up the sinus cavity. I had a guy I was creating the formula and I hadn't fully like finished it. And he had chronic sinus issues for 10 years. And I said, hey, I'm not done with this formula. Why don't you just take it home and try it? I'll give it to you for free. He came back a week later. He goes, the first time I did it, mucus came out of my head. He goes, I'm totally clear. For the first time in 10 years. Did this thing one time. And see, doctors put kids on these drugs. And not only just during the season they really need it, but tell them to take it year round. Like that's their method of prevention. Keeping toxins and poisons trapped in your body. So again, the mindset in medicine is that if you stop the symptom, you've healed the person. The truth is the opposite. If you allow the symptom to manifest, you remove the toxins and poisons. God's natural design of the body. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Most of what modern medicine works against God's design of the natural human body. Yes?
When it comes to the idea of having high fats, like to get more fats in our kids,
right,
for brain development, for some of those things, what is your opinion of that? Because I feel like that's a hard place sometimes to get them to have, they don't like avocados, they don't
right,
like some of those things that are more naturally healthy fats that you
right,
can get in their diet, then it's easy to revert to the dairies,
right,
and to revert to those things, you know, like it's fat, or the
right,
butters that are more cloggy,
right.
whatever. So what is your opinion on that?
So she asked about the fats. How do you get the kids the fats without kind of overdoing it maybe?
Yeah.
Or if they don't like
and
certain
they're
things?
still eating a very high carb diet.
So my personal opinion, okay, and again, I know I've shifted over the years, but just as I learn things, is that in today's culture, your kids are getting enough fat, period. Like most of you need to analyze the nuts, the nut butters, the oils and everything, the avocado, like way overdoing it. Way overdoing it. So if you got a little olive oil, or like I said, we put a little ghee in our rice or a little olive oil on your steamed vegetables or on your salads, you're getting more than enough. Research shows that for your gallbladder to contract, you need 10 grams of fat a day for your gallbladder to fully contract. You know how many grams of fat are in 1 tablespoon of olive oil? 14 grams of fat. So in 1 tablespoon of olive oil a day, if that's all you got, that's more than enough for your gallbladder to contract. That's more than enough for your brain to work and for everything else to work. We have taken fats are good for us to this whole new level of like, let's eat all the fats we can all day, every day. They're good for you. You can't overdo it. And we're learning now that, oh my gosh, slow down. We have way overdone it. And we just kind of tend to do that, you know? And trust me, I mean, really smart animals in nature, like they're not just sitting around eating fat all day. Their brains work fine. So we also have to have some trust in God and His design and the foods we're eating, that it's going to be okay. Now, if you're eating a kind of a low, no-fat diet, little olive oil, if you want to give your kids a fish oil, do it. I give my girls fish oil, and they're like smarter. I don't give my 4-year-old fish oil because she beats me enough in games. No, I'm just kidding. That's supposed to be a joke. That was funny. But no, I have given my kids fish oil, and I'm like, Naomi will start being like, do you remember when we such and such and went to this place? And I'm like, you were 2. Like, how do you remember that? You know? So I believe in healthy fats. I believe in fish oil, and I believe in olive oil. I don't believe in the overdoing it. There's no limits. Eat as much as you can. It's a problem. It's too much. Yeah.
I wanted to ask for bone broth, if you know a place locally that like has treats your animals well, that you buy bones from, because we don't eat a lot of meat, so I have to buy the bones to make the broth.
I would just ask around if anybody heard that. I don't know of a local source. We used to. Right now, we don't eat a lot of meat anymore, but we got some chickens in the freezer that we'll just get the organic chicken at like Whole Foods, and one day we'll do the crock pot, and then we'll get the bones and cook the bones and do all that. So, but it's fairly rare for us, so I wouldn't know, but somebody else around the community might know. I'll do one more question, and then we'll break. No, we good? Okay. Thank you, guys. Okay. Enjoy the day. Is it raining? Is it?